All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming. This is Taylor with Scott Leroy Marketing. Today we're going over print marketing. So we're going to create a flyer and going through and creating a listing presentation. Feel free as we go to throw any questions you have in the chat. I'm going to do my best to watch for those and answer as we go. If we have time at the end of class, I will also go over any questions I might have missed. I also just put in the chat our support email. That way, if you have a question that's more specific for something on your system that maybe not everyone is experiencing, then our support team can help troubleshoot and see what's going on or help you with that specific request. You can also check out any of our previous class recordings on our YouTube channel. If you go to Scott Leroy Marketing, or if you search YouTube for Scott Leroy Marketing, you'll find our whole channel where you have all of our previous class recordings. We have tip videos, quick, helpful videos to walk you through pieces of the system. So you can search on there. You can also email our support team and they will happily send you the link so that you can follow along with what you're looking for, if that's what you'd like. First thing we're going to do is get logged into Command. So agent.kw.com. Using our username and password. Give you guys just a second to do that. And then once you get logged in, you're going to navigate to designs. So it's this icon here that looks like it has a little paintbrush. You can also click on the KW in the upper left-hand corner, and that will pop out the menu names, so you don't have to hover over each icon to figure out where you're trying to go. All right, now once you're here, this is going to look different for everyone. Any design that you've clicked on the template and went into the editor, you started looking at them, that will be here. So if you're new to designs, this will likely be blank. In the upper right-hand corner, we're going to create design. And today we're going to stick to print. We do have additional classes that include these other types of designs. So feel free to check out that the next time we teach it or catch our last recording on our YouTube channel. All right, then once you hit next, this is going to bring you into the templates in the WeBrand editor. First thing that we recommend is updating your brand assets. These are going to be your frequently used items that are likely to be added on pretty much any of your designs. So things like your headshot, all of your personal information in text boxes. You have the main Keller Williams palette here, or folder, I should say, with colors. These are all things that KW has loaded for you and you will have access to in all of your designs. And I'll show you how to add those once we go into actually editing. And then below that, you have My Assets. So these are ones that you can upload. So you have colors and fonts. Again, you already will have access to the Keller Williams color palette and then the fonts that the system comes with. So if you're on a team that has a different color palette, you can add that here, or a different font. We recommend using the web fonts and finding some that are available within the system already. And you just have to toggle that on to add that. If you're not finding what you want to use in the web fonts or in the defaults, you can try to upload a font. The system is, I don't want to say finicky, but there is a certain compatibility, I guess, that depending on what you're wanting to use, it may not be compatible with this system. So just be aware of that if you are trying to upload a font. But there are so many that the system already comes with or that you can toggle on using web fonts that you should be able to find it. Images, text, and logos, which are the next three, are going to be the main asset sections that you recommend or that you upload to. So images are going to be your headshots. Text boxes are all of your information. So we recommend, your name, team name or office, DBA name, website, app code, phone number, email address, all of those things that you put on most of your marketing. And that way you'll be easily able to swap that information on all of the templates. Logos is a good section here. If you have a team logo or your own branded logo, you can upload that here. And then Scott has several different offices as examples. But if you go to, I'll show you guys, my KW. And then marketing is in this section right up here. Logos and branding is the first folder here. If you go into that and scroll down a little bit, Market Center logos right here, you can actually find all available logos for the office you're with. So different color palettes, or not palettes, color schemes, I should say. So some will have the red KW like you see in Scott's here. Some will be all black and white. Some will be all white, all black, or gray. Some will have no background like you see here. It might be hard to see on your end, I guess. But there's no background to these logos. They're transparent, but you can also get them with a white background. Any that are available, that's how you can get them. We recommend having all of them here in your assets. That way, depending on the type of design you're working with, you have access to all of them easily. Elements are more like shapes or icons. Videos, you can upload videos to your assets. That's not necessarily going to work for print marketing. But if you're working on a social design or an email, you can easily swap that out. Or any files like PDFs that you need to include in your marketing. Again, might be hard, you can't really link anything to a print design, but depending on what you're working on, it might be helpful. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you're on a team, you may have an additional section for your team assets that the rainmaker of your team can set up and share to you. All right, so once all of that is updated, and you don't have to do this first, this is just what we recommend to save you time, and I'll show you what that looks like. You do have this auto create section. If we have time at the end of class, I'll go through that. But it basically just gives you prompts for the information that you want uploaded, and then it creates it for you. But I want to show you guys how to actually edit. All right, so let's do an open house flyer. So back to templates under listings, and I selected open house. That's going to start popping up all of the open house print templates. As you scroll, there will be different ones that show up. You can filter here by the size and layout that you want. You can have door hangers, a regular letter-sized flyer. You can have bifolds, trifolds on 11 by 8.5, or standard postcards. So here, you just want to select whichever template you want, and then hit use that pops up in the corner. And that's going to take you into the actual editing section. And then we're just going to go through each piece and update it. So first, selecting this DBA logo here. Once you select that, it switches on the left-hand side to go to logos. And it takes us into workspace. So these are the Keller Williams assets that were updated. So all of the generic logos that KW used for you. So if you click into each of these folders, you'll start to see what's available. However, this is a filler and is supposed to be for your specific market center. So that's when you'll toggle over to My Assets right here. And then switch or replace logo. And it looks like it did not work for me. So again, selecting that and then replace. Where you notice just clicking on it, it threw it in randomly. So then I would have to resize, where switching kept the location, kept the size, depending on the layout of the logo. Next is going to be switching the photo here. So now we're actually going to go to KWLS here on the left-hand side. And we're going to search for our property. So staying on listing, I'm going to select this and search by MLS number. We found that it's more exact on locating your listing to do it that way rather than listing address, because it searches for all variations of the address. And now once we've found our listing, we're going to select. And again, making sure our photo is selected for what we're replacing. We just want to replace image. And it shifted a little funny, so I'm going to reposition that. And these text boxes we can leave because that is accurate. But then we want to change our listing price. So here, still in KWLS, where we selected our listing, but this time we're going to go to listing details. And then our text box is selected. We're going to find current price and then replace. Now this is pulling from the MLS. So I'm just going to alter that, make sure it looks the way I want. Now here we have the address. So again, selecting our text box and replacing. And then to alter the text, you can either double click in the box directly, or right here is the icon for the typewriter function, right next to the spacing. And that pops open the text box on the right-hand side so that you can make your edits and save changes. So you have a couple different options there. All right, so now notice that we have 3 different stats for our home in this one text box. If I come over here to replace how many bedrooms, it's going to remove absolutely everything. Zoom in here. Except for that number. So this is going to be, oops, that was not supposed to move. A circumstance where I want to come over here and just edit on the side. And I'm using the stats over here to just type it in. And then here, you'll just want to make sure that this is accurate. So I typically come in here, and then just alter the property description from the MLS to reflect what I want it to. Next photo here, we're going to scroll back up on our listing here, go back to photos, and again, just replace. And I'm just selecting whichever photos I feel are going to best market the property. And then, of course, the details for our open house, you can just type right in there. We'll pretend that date is accurate. Actually, it might be. I'm not sure. Anyway. And then, of course, our time. So in really small font down here, but it does have our ownership statement. Each office is independently owned and operated, so we're good on that. And then down here, we have the information for ourselves. So headshots, we're going to go to images on the left-hand side. Now there are several options here. Obviously for your headshot, you don't want to use a stock photo, but there are images that KW lets you use. So depending on, or not KW, that are built in. You'll notice these say upgrade to use. So they do, you can add to canvas or upgrade to use. Some of them do cost money if you want to use them. So just be aware of that if you're using stock images on some of your marketing. Workspace, that is, again, the Keller Williams uploaded photos that you have access to. So these are the KW stock photos that are available for you to use. Guys, I need more coffee. Bear with me. Sorry about that. And these, since they're preloaded for you, they don't cost money. And then you have your assets. So for your headshot, again, replace. If you haven't updated your assets yet and you're working on this, you do have the option here to just add, and you can select from any of these locations. You can drag and drop it from your computer. Just depends on where you have it stored. And you can do that for any type of photo. Now we have more text. So we're going to go to text on the left-hand side. Again, you can add text boxes. And it's just going to add it in there. Doing too many things and getting click happy. There we go. Banners, again, it's under text, but these are things that you can add that are available to you. Workspace is the ownership statement that KW has added for you. That's already on there, so we don't have to worry about it. But then my assets, this is where you can add your name at your team name, whatever. And then again, text. I'm gonna get away from that before I replace this whole thing that we just did. And then you can come in here if you want and replace all of this information manually. You can also, if you felt like it, go to text my assets and replace each of these. Phone number, I'm going to duplicate that so it keeps the same font size. If you wanted them separate, you can do that as well. Oh, too many things. You can also, if you created a QR code, or if we created one for you, for a landing page that you made for this listing with more details, you can also add an image and then drag and drop that QR code here. I don't have an example, and I should. I'm sorry about that, guys. But we get this question often, so you can totally add a QR code. That way, if someone is interested but they don't want to take a flyer, they can scan the QR code and get more information about the property. And that's if you've built out a page either on your KW site or a custom site and created a QR code for it. But you can totally do that. Once you are satisfied with your flyer, you're able to then, you have several options. First, you want to make sure that it has a name that makes sense to you. That way you can easily find it. We always recommend something to do with the address if you have a address specific marketing piece you're creating. You can order print. So if you wanted to order directly through the WeBrand editor, you can order print, and that's going to walk you through the steps. Giving you different options. And it's going to give you your estimate down here. And then reviewing, it's going to double check that everything is within the bleed lines here. Now notice over here we have an exclamation point. That's because this little design that's meant to go off the page is within the bleed line. If you're fine with that, you can totally bypass it, but just make sure that the pertinent information is there. Like notice the logo here. If it was outside the bleed line and it would be cut off, you might want to go back in and fix that before you process this. And then you have a couple check marks here. Download a proof PDF to review. So that's just downloading a PDF file for you to see in full view what that's going to look like. My computer is a little slow, so we'll give that a second. And then here's our PDF. And then agreeing to terms and conditions with a link for you to read that. And then if you go to check out, it's going to finalize your order. So you enter your information, shipping address. Usually this gets sent to the market center, but it's up to you. And then card information with your total here. The other option is just like when we went through here and it downloaded, you can directly download this, either PDF standard or PDF for printing. PDF for printing is supposed to be a higher quality, so we usually recommend that when you're printing, and making sure that all available pages are selected, which for flyer is just the one. Unless it's a double-sided flyer, then you'll want to make sure both are selected, and then download. We have a progress bar down here. And then again, saving wherever. Now you have this saved on your computer. Now you have the option to print this off at home. If you have a decent printer that you want to use, you can print this at your market center if you have printers available, depending on what that looks like. And you can either take obviously your computer if you're connected to the printers, or email this PDF to yourself so you can pull it up on a computer at the office. Whatever that looks like within your office, you can do that. You can use a local print shop if you wanted to take this PDF and make copies there. It's entirely up to you. Once you've downloaded the PDF, you can process it however you want, depending on your quality of printing and price that you want to pay for it, and how many. I'm going to save one more time and then hit done, because we're done with that design for now. And it should then be the first thing you see in your dashboard for designs. It may take a minute or two to refresh depending on how many designs you have. So now we're going to go through a listing presentation, and a lot of the editing is like the same, guys, when it comes to working within the system. So we're going to go through it kind of quickly. There's a few things that I want to show you that we didn't do on the last one. So going back into the print templates, again, under listings, we're going to go to listing presentation. And once you have one you want to use, again, hover over it and select it. Now this, in the very bottom corner, you'll see the number of pages that this design has. You can pop open that menu in order to select through them. I'm trying to let it load so it doesn't get mad at me. Now for each of these templates, there's an instruction page on page 2. This is from Keller Williams to you, and how this is designed to work for you as an agent. You do not want to include this in your presentation for a client. So be sure, after reading it, if you want to walk through it, to delete this page. So you're going to come over to your menu over here, and on the page that you want to delete, you select the dots and delete, making sure it says yes. There you go. Now, what I like to do, or what I recommend, is creating a listing presentation template that is already customized with your information. That way, when you have a client to prepare it for, you can make a quick copy and then just have to update the market information for the listing specifically. That way you're not worrying about the entire presentation, but that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to leave the word template in this text box, but I'm going to change the color to something that is quite obviously not on brand. So that it brings my attention to update this later. And then again, filler information. But then down here, you'll notice we do have our information. So images, my assets, photo on top of a photo. Switching our logo, again, my asset. And then in little tiny letters, it's really hard to see, we have market center address. So if that is in your text assets, you can update that. Easy switch. And then again, your website, email. This is the generic KW site, so I'm going to remove that. Phone number, and then your app code. Making sure that is all customized for you. And then moving on. This is moving that around, making sure that this information, some of it is generic and meant to be helpful, but nothing that you need to customize. So that's what this is. If you don't like the photos used, you can always go to the workspace or the stock images or anything like that. Make that look how you want. And moving to the next page here, we have property specific information. So you can either, if you have a listing that you're working with, you can come in here, find the KWLS, if it's been listed before, if it's currently listed, although listing presentation for something listed doesn't really make sense, but you can look in the KWLS to find it, or you can just type in that information. Or if it is in fact a template that you're making. Just change that. Photo, if you're not actually working with the listing yet, can't really update that. But then again, changing, I know this seems a bit obnoxious, but I've seen that this can be really helpful once you actually have a listing so that you know this is all neighborhood specific. So I'm going to highlight all of this. All right, so same concept here. This is a neighborhood that would be specific for your listing, but I wanted to show you guys here the neighborhood snapshot. So just like we did with the listing, we're going to go to KWLS. And then instead of listing, we're going to go snapshots. And you can search by neighborhood name or by zip code. So once you're actually creating your listing presentation and you know the area, you'll be able to find this. All right, so searching for the neighborhood, I searched by zip code. I can then replace this image and it gives us all of the stats there. Now, the stats are pulling from Nextdoor. So you may see, let's see if I can show you guys. It still might be hard to see. You'll notice all of these have stats other than the average sold price. Looks like that one does too. There's not a way to edit this snapshot. So since this is all syncing from data from Nextdoor, you can't edit the way this is. So just be aware of that when you go to add it in case there are several not availables in these categories and you don't want to include it because of that. You'll just want to kind of narrow it down either by searching a different neighborhood or by zip code if you want, or you can just remove it totally. It's up to you. Now here's the spot for your comparable properties. If you have other ones on the market, again, KWLS, search for the listing for your comparables. Let's say you have a different format for your CMA and you don't need to include it in this template. You can, again, just delete this page if you don't want to include it. You also have the option of duplicating the page. So if you did want to include it and you had more comparables, now you have two different pages with these. Now here is more of a filler page. If you like it, you can leave it. It doesn't need to be customized. Now here you have the process. Read through it, make sure that it is accurate for your area, your role. Just double check. Again, it should be generic enough walking through the home buying process that, or the home listing process, that you shouldn't have to change too much, but you'll just want to double check. And then they included a page here for the seller's guide. You'll want to make sure to replace your app code here. That should be the only thing on this one. Again, generic marketing plan information for you. Again, if you don't want something, you feel like it's too much for whatever reason, you can delete it. Generic marketing plan, making sure again that's accurate. You probably don't want to give them a plan that includes Facebook and Instagram posts or stories if you don't have an Instagram account. Again, there's a lot of this that is meant to be helpful, but not personalized. It's generic enough to use. We have another page with our information, so replacing that. Now, these numbers, obviously, if you have numbers that you want to include, you can totally do that. If you're new and you don't want to include, 1 year experience or whatever it is, you can ask your market center for their stats and, double checking that you're advertising properly, that it's not giving off the wrong idea and you're following compliance rules. You may be able to ask your market center for these types of stats if you wanted to include them. And then again, personal information, I'm swapping it out. And then this is including, the text is really small. Sorry, guys. It gets really hard to see, but it's giving credentials here. So you don't want to include any of that. You can switch it. Again, logo switch. Doesn't like that the first time I do it. And then again, market center address, switching that. Credentials and awards. This is a Keller Williams one. So if you wanted to include it, you can totally leave that as supporting documents. Same thing here. And then down towards the bottom, you have the option for your portfolio, and it's got different layouts. So there's 6 to a page, 3 to a page, or featured listings 2 to a page. So you can have as many of those as you want. Again, duplicating it. Let's say I wanted to use the 3, so I'm going to remove the 6 to a page. But let's say I wanted to include more, you can duplicate it then. Again, changing all of your listing information. And now we have reviews. So you can come in here and add any testimonials that you've received if you wanted to include those. More filler information. And then again, your personal contact information on all of this. And then what I like to do, since this is our template, I'm going to label it that. Save all of my progress, hit done. There we go. And now I have that here. So when I have a client, I can select the 3 dots here, make a copy. And this is just going to stay in the personal library. If you're on a team, it gives you the options of which profile you want to copy it to. All right, so now we have copy of listing presentation. So now I can come in here and I forgot to mention your library colors. So your palettes, you have the Keller Williams palette, again, workspace. Change that back. Remove the word template. And then coming in here and actually customizing this for the client. But our information is already there. So you just have to focus on that. And then same thing with the flyer. You can either order the presentation, but then it has processing time and shipping time to get to you. So if you have the ability to download all of the pages of the PDF and then print it however you need to, at the office, at your home, send it to a local print shop, whatever it is, you can do that as well. All right, guys, I know I breezed through the presentation relatively quickly because we already went through most of the editing process, at least within the system on the flyer. So I'm going to be mindful of anyone that needs the account after me and go ahead and end here. We are basically at the end of time anyway. So thank you guys so much for coming. I didn't see any questions pop up in the chat. So hopefully that means I answered all of them as we went. I hope you have a good rest of your day and we'll be seeing you next time, I guess.